We're
Cool.
good to go.
All right. Here we go.
All right.
And welcome back to Greatest Lists. Your what do we Wow. I'm so used to the regular intro. I was just trying to riff. And it never works when I riff. I need notes. Anyway, all right. Here we go. Start it over.
Welcome to the Greatest Lists podcast, a show about music and lists. This season, your hosts Jason and Eric are counting down the top 25 guitar solos of the 80s and the top 25 guitar solos of the 90s. Think your favorite made the list? Tune in and find out. Take it away, boys.
And welcome back to Greatest Lists and a special bonus podcast for you when we've been talking about to wrap up the first half of season 2. Jason here, of course, and of course Eric is here as well.
Yep.
How you doing, man?
I'm good.
Yeah, you just went and started making lists on your own now, man. What's up? 100, and you were griping about 50 the first season.
I don't know where that idea came from. I just decided.
This is great. This is great for those of you listening who may not know and may not follow us on YouTube now. Eric is doing a 100 albums in 100 days marathon review, I guess you would say.
Yeah, that's a good description of it. Yeah.
And we blew up the Retro Network's VIP lounge over there one day when he asked us for some suggestions for albums that he might not have heard.
My God, it was a deluge.
The list, and it just floods of albums. I know I added some in there myself, but we're at day 2 and I'm already loving the list. Public Enemy, Van Halen's 1984, which I could listen to anytime, anywhere.
Yeah, today's album was a Grateful Dead album.
Okay.
So it's a good list. It's gonna be fun. I've already gotten some good feedback from people on certain albums, and so I hope I can keep that kind of interaction up. So
yeah. So follow if you're on TikTok. It's Eric_in_Tulsa.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Is his handle. So find him over there on TikTok, and then I'm also uploading them to our YouTube channel, which is our tag just at Greatest Lists.
Yeah.
And you can follow along there. But
also, if you do go find me on TikTok, let me know you heard it on the podcast. Just so we'll know who's actually listening.
You got a little bit of feedback too over there on our channel, so I guess I need to get you plugged in.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Old school Tim left a comment for another Public Enemy album to check out.
Gotcha.
So nice. Very fun. Well, we are here to run through our honorable mentions for the greatest guitar solos of the 90s that we went through. Yep. First, before we get to that, couple pieces of music news. The big one recently was the passing of Tina Turner.
Oh man.
Yeah, that one, you never can prepare yourself for when these legends of music just pass away. And I kind of got the same feeling when Tom Petty passed away, when Prince and David Bowie, all those that were just kind of sudden, but not, some more sudden than others. But she was, I think, 83, which was kind of surprising to me. But
I was surprised she was. I mean, it didn't really dawn on me that she was that old. But
yeah, what were you thinking about that day after you heard the news?
I mean, I've always thought Tina Turner was just a force. She's just, I mean, I've loved her music ever since I heard her in the '80s with her Private Dancer album, and I mean, hands down, she was one of the sexiest women in rock and roll. That's just not even up for debate. But
the Gams.
Yeah. I mean, it's. I'm like you. It's always kind of a shock when, even though we know that that's going to be happening more and more, just because of you know, if if I'm in my 50s, the people I listen to are even older than that. So,
Yeah.
it's just, but you know, it's just when it's unexpected like that, it's just kind of sad. So
Yeah. Makes you want to just kind of celebrate their catalog.
yeah,
And,
which I did. The rest of that day, I listened to Tina Turner.
yeah. I think the news broke around 2 o'clock, and I remember seeing it in the afternoon and thinking, well, I'm just going to jam out on the way home from work. And was kind of flipping through the radio stations first. God bless local radio stations and good local radio stations who still will pause, you know, whatever they're doing, whatever pre-recorded crap that they put out nowadays. And one station, I'll give a shout out, Kate FM in Auburn, Alabama. I get him here in Montgomery, one of the greatest stations in this area. Brooke in the afternoon just paused what she was doing and just started playing Tina.
Nice.
And at I think she started out with the hits around 2 o'clock, and by the time I had gotten in the car, which I think was around 4:30, there was all kinds of live cuts and just songs some I'd never heard before that she was playing. And then the 5 o'clock hour hit. I was just kind of pulling into the neighborhood and hit What's Love Got to Do with It right at the top of the hour and started playing the hits again. And I got teary, man. Yeah. I was like, wow. Just this whole week we were talking a little bit off the air. We've been sick here and just went through a lot, and that just kind of, you know,
pushed me over the edge. Yeah.
Put me over the edge at that time. Yeah. And just thinking about it, I was really sad that she was gone. But
well, XM wasted no time in creating a Tina Turner channel. That's
good.
I think plays for, I don't know, another week or so. And then like the day after, Mark Goodman is on the 80s on 8 from like 6 to 10 in the morning. And he was spinning some Tina and telling stories about when he had a chance to meet her at the MTV studios a couple times. So
yeah, see, that's what you appreciate too, when you have people that have the stories, they're playing the music and things are coming back. Yeah. And even the local DJ here, she was talking about a certain Tina song. I can't remember which one took her back to her childhood in Chicago. She was in a mall, and those you remember those dancing flowers?
Yeah.
You play music and they danced around
back and forth. Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know if she was working at this store or just in the mall at some store, and they were playing Tina and all the flowers were dancing, and that's what kind of came to mind. I was like, that's a fun story.
That's a fun memory. Yeah.
So
nice.
Yeah, it's good to kind of, you know, reminisce, and then it's good to have all that music just waiting for you.
Yeah.
When you need it. But yeah, that was a sad note. And then another piece of business we need to talk about is the 2023 Rock Hall inductees list that was announced here recently. Some surprising picks, in my opinion.
Yeah.
That came out of here, and you know, we might as well call it the Musicians Hall of Fame at this point. I keep telling people that there's just a wide range of people that aren't rock and roll necessarily, but anyway, so in the performer category, who they define this as artists who have created music whose originality, impact, and influence has changed the course of rock and roll. Their picks this time, very surprising to me, but I don't know. As far as originality goes, yes, Kate Bush, and that was, I don't know, a little bit too much in the moment, you know, when she just
I think that was Stranger Things effect, I think.
I think so too. I mean, she's very talented, some like a great original music, has the stage fright, so she hasn't really become mainstream nor wanted to be, you know. Discovered by David Gilmour, I believe. And interesting, like when her song took off for Stranger Things, I went back and was watching some performances on YouTube and listening to some of her music and stuff, because I had heard her before, but it had been a while before I heard some of the songs that I had remembered. And just a great voice. But that was kind of surprising to me. I think on her maybe second time that she's been nominated, something like that.
Yeah.
The one that blew me out of the water was Sheryl Crow. First time that she was eligible, or first time on the ballot. I don't know about that one being a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Yeah, I mean, she's a first timer and got in, and so did Missy Elliott, which
right.
And I don't mean to throw shade on either one of them, but come on, Cyndi Lauper's not even in yet. She's been on the ballot what, half a dozen times. It took Pat Benatar as many times as she was on the ballot to get in, but I don't
understand that.
I don't understand their thinking.
Sheryl Crow, she's got some great music.
Yeah.
I remember when she first hit with All I Want to Do, and that song just got played way too much, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But I've liked some of her stuff along the way. But first ballot, I don't know.
Yeah.
Missy Elliott, very creative. This was her first year of eligibility, and she's in, like you said. I haven't listened to too much from her, but I remember some of the music videos back in the 90s in particular. I don't know. George Michael, now this was the first time he was on a ballot, and he made it through.
It surprised me more that this was his first time on the ballot.
I agree. Yeah. And now I think, to me, he was well warranted going in. Just a string of number one hits.
Right.
I mean, up there with the most number ones of all time, like with Phil Collins and Michael Jackson.
You don't really know. I mean, you have to, once you sit down and start counting his hits, you realize how many he has.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, if you haven't really looked at it, it's surprising how many hits he had on his own, not with Wham, on his own. And so, yeah, I mean, that, like I said, it's surprising this is his first time on the ballot.
And then another first time on the ballot that made it in, Willie Nelson. you let in Dolly, you might as well let in Willie.
I mean,
right?
You're going to open the gates, you might as well let both of the old timers in.
90, was he just 90?
Is he 91 or 90?
Somewhere around in there.
Yeah, he's old.
He's getting up there. But I mean, he's a country music legend.
Yeah.
I guess he's done some kind of crossover stuff, but
when I was a kid, he had a movie called Honeysuckle Rose, and that was like a fairly big hit movie wise, and the song was kind of a hit. It kind of crossed over too. So he's just kind of universally known. He's like Dolly. I mean, everybody knows Willie Nelson.
Yeah.
So.
And then really the only rock and roll band I would say going in, Rage Against the Machine got in.
Yeah.
And then the Spinners.
It's such a wide range.
Yeah. So that was your inductee list. There's also a couple other awards they give out. Musical Influence Award, which are artists whose music and performance style have directly influenced, inspired, and evolved rock and roll music, impacting youth culture. And that's DJ Kool Herc and Link Ray.
Don't know either one of those guys.
I don't either. Music Excellence Award, given to artists, musicians, songwriters, and producers whose originality and influence creating music have had a dramatic impact on music. Chaka Khan is in that group. Al Cooper and Bernie Taupin.
Bernie Taupin of I can't think of the guy, Elton John. He was Elton John's writing partner for a long time.
Oh, okay, yeah, I got you.
So a lot of people would say there would be no Elton John if it wasn't for Bernie Taupin.
Bernie, okay. And then the Ahmet Ertegun Award, non-performing industry professionals who've had major influence on the creative development and growth of rock and roll music and impacted youth culture. Don Cornelius. Yeah.
Yes. Very deserving.
Yes, I think so as well.
Yeah.
And then the snubs. So here were the snubs that were on the ballot, did not get in. Cyndi Lauper, like you mentioned, was one of them. The White Stripes. A Tribe Called Quest, which I loved A Tribe Called Quest back in the early 90s.
Yeah.
Scenario. That song, that music video was just amazing. I love the song Award Tour. I remember just playing that one on repeat. Very impactful in the hip hop culture.
Yes.
Here's the big ones that did not make it in: Soundgarden and Iron Maiden.
Yeah.
Iron Maiden's been on the ballot for several times again, and they're not in. And you're putting Sheryl Crow and in instead of like Iron Maiden. I mean, come on, people.
I mean, even if you want to go further, you're putting Rage Against the Machine in, but not Iron Maiden.
Yeah.
I mean,
or Rage over.
Not saying any of those people.
Soundgarden.
Not saying any of those people are not deserving, but these. I mean, how can you snub these bands? Soundgarden was just. They were equally as influential coming out of Seattle as any other band that came out of that time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and
and how much even Chris Cornell as with Audio Slave and then as a solo artist.
Yeah.
I know you're kind of looking at the band overall, but
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then also didn't make it Joy Division / New Order and Warren Zevon.
Yeah. Those are some big snubs.
I only know Warren Zevon for Werewolves.
Werewolves of London?
Yeah. I hear that like every day on the local classic rock.
Do you really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's the only song I know really of Warren Zevon. So you mentioned that name, I'm howling, but I don't know. I think the system is, they need to either rename the hall or go back to.
They also need to expose how in the world are you guys picking these people? I mean, what's the criteria? Is it just who you like? Is it who's Well,
yeah, that's what was weird. Like I remember 2 or 3 years ago voting in their like audience poll or whatever online. Vote for your favorite, and the audience vote was only like 25% towards that person or something. So it wasn't even like whoever wins the popular vote doesn't necessarily get in. That's what kind of toilet paper math is that? I mean, it's just
toilet paper math. Yes,
it's messed up, man.
It is
messed up.
It is.
But anyway, so that's what's going in, or who's going in Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and around that. So let's get on to the task at hand, which is finishing out our top 90s guitar solos list with our honorable mentions. And I'm going to kick things off for us. So there's some of these that I had written down in the master list there, and some I just went back and was like, there's got to be a solo for this band or something I can put in. I was thinking more towards the late 90s. I'm like, there's got to be some of these bands I listened to. I did find one. I was like, okay, I'm going to put this one on the list. But speaking of Rage Against the Machine, we're going to kick things off. Start your head banging. It's Bulls on Parade. So Tom Morello, of course, is the guitarist with Rage Against the Machine. And from what I can tell, all of his guitars are just modified custom guitars. He seems to use Fenders as the bass most of the time. But this song in particular is really what introduced me to the band, and a lot of people really, from their first album. And it was so I'm going to paint a picture here. It was my first semester in college, and I wasn't really close with anybody in the dorm. This is my freshman year, first semester. I got stuck with the worst roommate in the world. The guy, okay, so you know how people have clock radios, and you set your clock radio to your favorite radio station to wake up to in the morning. This guy would set his clock radio to some place on the AM dial where there was no station and turn it up full blast.
Just be static.
Yes. So I got full blast static every morning when he, woke up for his 8 o'clock class or whatever. So there was a couple guys in the dorm I befriended, and then I was playing music one day. I can't remember what I was playing, and the guy on the other end of the hall stopped by and said, "Hey, come here. I want you to hear something." And he took me down to his room on the other end of the hallway and put on this song. We're at a conservative Christian college and we're blasting Bulls on Parade.
Yes.
What is this? This is
Yes.
awesome. And so that was just kind of a memory I have surrounding this song. And just his guitar is so unique. The scratching style that he uses sometimes, particularly in this song, just crazy, but kind of fits, with the rapping style that they have. And, watching people, if you ever watch those reaction videos on YouTube, some African-American people reacting to rock and roll music
Those two
are
guys
my
crack me
favorite.
up. Yeah.
There's a couple guys, and there's one guy, Jamel, aka Jamal or something. He put on this song and he stops the music. He just kind of looks at the camera. And he's like, "You guys, this is an awesome song."
Oh, that's awesome.
Just a unique, very, very unique style and sound with his guitar.
Yeah.
What about you as far as Rage goes?
Well, I discovered Rage from their first album, and I wore that album out, and then this album, probably about the same. But he's the master of that. So that pedal he uses that makes his notes go from 1 octave to 3 octaves up, it does it back and forth. It's called a whammy pedal. And I tried using one of those one time just to see how he actually makes those noises he makes, and it is hard to do.
I'm sure.
He's playing. I was just trying to do one note. he's playing that way. He's just if you've ever heard him play just away from Rage, he's a great guitar player. He's just on the acoustic, just a regular electric. I followed him for a while on TikTok, and he's just a great guitar player. He's very knowledgeable about technical stuff as well, and he's just a nice guy. If you ever hear him talk, he's got a show on XM. He's just a nice guy. But I love the way he treats his guitar like a DJ scratching, that kind of stuff. Yeah, he's just so unique and just really pushed. When they hit in the early 90s, he just pushed guitar playing in a new direction.
Very much so.
And he's a great guy.
And it's interesting if you've listened to the Audio Slave, which I have on the first couple albums there. I don't know how many they've released or did release, but you hear some Rage in there, but he's also doing more traditional, I guess you would say, stuff versus this kind of style of playing that you use, particularly with Rage.
Yeah.
And I think it's more or less to complement Chris Cornell's voice and just the overall feel of the Audio Slave songs versus what, they were doing with Rage.
Right.
And I really dig some of his solos. You can sing more to those in Audio Slave than you can
with Rage.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So,
true story.
Cool stuff. All right. Well, what's your first pick? We rambled on enough here.
Okay. So my first mention is a song from the band Mr. Big. And this is Daddy, Brother, Lover, and Little Boy. So this song is probably the biggest travesty on the list by far. Because I'm a dumbass, I thought this album came out in 1989 and was poised to include a song off of it on our 80s list. And realized after we made our 90s list, this came out in 1991. So I didn't get a chance to include it in our 90s list. But this song would have been one of my top 25 picks if I had realized that in time. So the guitarist for Mr. Big is Paul Gilbert. He's one of those guitarists that came out of Shrapnel Records. I think if you heard our earlier list, I've mentioned him a couple of times. He originally played in a band called Racer X. He was originally featured in a Spotlight column of Guitar Player when he was 16. He attended a school in California called the Guitar Institute of Technology, or GIT, and he was immediately hired as an instructor after he graduated.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I have a friend from high school that went to GIT after a couple of years of college in Oklahoma. He actually went to GIT, and Paul Gilbert was one of his teachers. And he said, years later, he said, Paul Gilbert was the hardest teacher to follow because he was just way smarter than anybody else in the room as far as it came to playing guitar and guitar theory. So he was like, I did not look forward to that class because I just could not follow along. So he was in a band called Racer X before this. He has 15 solo albums on his own, including a blues album, a Christmas album, and a Ronnie James Dio cover album.
Wow.
So he's got just got a lot of stuff out there. He's an amazing guitarist. He's just his speed and his technique is just incredible. But as far as this song goes, he halfway through the solo, he played the drill, much like Mr. Ed did in our number 2 song from the list, Pound Cake. So he plays a drill. I'm pretty sure he did it first. I think I don't remember when For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge came out.
I think that was 92.
Yeah, so he may have done it first before Eddie did. But the first half of the solo is just equally as ridiculous. I don't know if you had a chance to listen to the song.
Yeah, no, I did listen to it.
The first half of the solo is just ungodly. It's so fast, and he's just got so much speed and dexterity that it's just. And when he was in Racer X, he was very metal, very neoclassical. Like, we mentioned Marty Friedman and Jason Becker in our list, and how they were, very classically leaning guitarists that just could play it. Light speed. He was the same way in Racer X, but when he became the guitar player for Mr. Big, he modified his playing to be more mainstream. But he's still just an incredible guitar player. So if this will be the one where I kick myself that I didn't remember what year this album came out. So
I don't have much of a history with Mr. Big other than I remember Mom had the single of "To Be With You."
To Be With You, yeah.
And they're probably like Extreme, although I have, delved much more into Extreme than them, that were stereotyped by their hit and didn't, if you went out and listened to a Mr. Big record, you'd probably be blown away.
Yeah. True story.
And just listening to this song, which I had not remembered, remembered anybody doing the drill thing, let alone two guys, two people, right?
Yes.
I fired up the video on YouTube, and it says in parentheses the drill song.
Yeah.
I was like, they're using drills in this song. Sure enough,
yeah.
I guess he was using it on the bass too, or something.
Yes. So the bass player is Billy Sheehan, who played for David Lee Roth on the first 2 David Lee Roth albums. And he plays his bass with a drill too. So when you hear the drill in the song, they're both using it.
Yeah, so. And they're in the video I watched. They're in Japan because all right, Japan, are you ready for some drills? And they bust out the drills.
Yes,
and it was very cool. So something I just had never been exposed to before.
Yeah. So anyway, that's my first honorable mention.
Okay. Well, my next pick, we're staying with the mainstream here, and another snub from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I didn't play in this, actually, but Soundgarden, oh gosh, they've been so impactful to me, especially the Super Unknown album, but just over the years, once we got to the time that I was working for the radio station in 94, 95, I remember, and we're like what you call like a hot AC station. So we play Chicago, but we also play a little bit heavier stuff. Well, they were playing, at least for a while, Fell on Black Days.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, are you kidding me? But the song that I picked, because there is some guitar solos that are not too epic. This one I think is pretty epic and probably should have put it in my list. It's Black Hole Sun. Sorry. So Kim Thale is the guitarist for Soundgarden. He uses mainly Guild guitars. I think the S100 for his early 90s era. One of my favorite Soundgarden songs is this one. The music video was one of those like train wreck videos you just couldn't look away from. Those people with the bug eyes, and there's like atomic bombs going off in the background. And oh man, I had I had thought about it, but just didn't quite make the list, I guess, the first time around. And for some reason I didn't really hook into the guitar solo. But there's some great left and right channel in the headphones when you're listening to this song, especially at the beginning. But the solo has a lot of movement, and he gets some bends in there, and also some speed techniques too. And it's just a great mix, I think, for a guitar solo, and hitting on the vibe of the song too. It's not really it's just more of like almost like a dark ballad, or dark, what do I want to call it? Not ballad, but anyway, it's not real in your face,
right?
But the tone of his guitar and what he does during the solo too, I think really matches the song itself. What about you as far as Soundgarden goes?
They're probably my second favorite band to come out of Seattle. I loved their sound from the beginning, especially his guitar sound. He gets a great tone out of those Guild guitars that I know he comes from a punk rock background, because I remember my best memory of Kim Thale is that I remember watching an interview with him, and he was in a band called Bozo and the Pinheads. They were a punk rock band when he left.
I didn't go that deep on his history.
I think he lived in Chicago, and I remember him talking about that one time when I saw an interview with him. He's got a very unique sound and a unique way of playing. He doesn't play like everybody else does, and I don't know how to describe it. He just, much like Tom Morello, he doesn't play like everybody else. He has a different way of playing, and it sounds great.
And Chris Cornell, he almost takes like vocal solos in some of those songs.
Yeah.
You think about Outshined, one of my favorites of theirs. There's not really a guitar solo in that, but he's doing all this stuff lyrically and vocally, I guess I should say, during the bridge of that song, and you hear Kim playing in the background, but it's him vocalizing kind of through that middle part, and then kicking back into that main riff. There's a great riff in the song, but there's not an epic solo like this one. Right. So yeah, it's interesting just trying to pick apart some of these bands that they're not typically adding in solos to their hits, or even many songs in their albums, and just trying to pull one out. It's kind of difficult, but I needed to put this one in
because they have good players. I mean, the musicians are great. They just don't have, the band they were in didn't feature guitar solos like.
Yeah, and it's the era too. Just the alternative era. There's not a lot of solos.
Exactly.
And that's why when Nuno busted out that solo in Rise this year, everybody went ape stuff over it, because they're like, where have these solos been the last 20 years?
Nobody's playing like that anymore.
No, nobody.
Exactly.
So, man, it was that was just on my mind, because I sent you the link last night. Nuno did an interview on Rick Beato's channel. It's mainly just him yakking. There's
which
really
is great.
That's question.
I want to hear that. That's so. I mean,
it's over 2 hours.
Oh, dude, that's probably too short. I mean, to hear that guy talk about music and guitars and playing, and just
I couldn't get enough of it. I stayed up until midnight last night, watching the interview. But
I can't wait to watch that.
We're just, the era has changed. It's nice that it's kind of swung back into this solo type stuff, but just not what it was. And it's probably why most of our list leans more towards the early 90s, because it's a lot of 80s carryover. Essentially,
it really is. I mean, the ones that have prominent guitar solos are just carryovers from the 80s. Yeah.
All right, next one for you.
So my second one is from the band Tesla. This is a song called Edison's Medicine. So Tesla guitarist Frank Hannon, in my opinion, he's one of the most overlooked guitar players to come out of the 80s. He can do it all. And what you hear him play on all their albums is what you hear him pull off live, note for note.
Nice.
He's not like, I'm going to take 3 takes of this solo and mash them all together and then, muddle my way through it live. What you hear on the albums, he plays live, note for note. I just saw them late last summer, and he's so fun to watch because he makes it look so easy. I mean, it's just effortless, and much like and he can write a great song riff too. Like a lot of their songs just have a great hook riff behind the verses. And so much so, I had a hard time choosing between this song and another song called "Song and Emotion," because that has a tremendous riff, but didn't have the solo work compared to this song. But this song really has like almost 3 solos. The opening solo at the beginning of the song just set your hair on fire. I mean,
that
it's
was
just
crazy.
ridiculous.
It's you don't hear too many songs that start with a solo.
Yeah, exactly.
And like an epic solo.
Yeah, it's not just him. It's not just him playing. It's like he's trying to set the building.
It's not
on
a
fire.
riff.
No.
Yeah, he's literally. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the middle, when he's kind of like playing off of that electricity a little bit there.
Yeah.
That was insane.
So before he hits his solo in the middle, he's playing a theremin. I don't know if you know what that is. It's okay. So you've heard in the original Star Trek series, in the title song, that weird. I can't even describe the way it sounds. It's the main voice in the Star Trek theme.
Okay.
That it's not even an instrument. It's a radio wave.
Okay. I know what
I'm talking about. That's a theremin.
Yeah.
You play it by putting your hand in certain positions to break the radio wave, and then you pull your hands back and forth and it bends the wave, and that's what makes the sound. So he's playing that before he launches into his second solo. Now the cool thing about that is when I saw them live, he has his theremin sitting on stage. He just takes his hands off his guitar, he plays his theremin, and then comes back to his guitar like it's nothing. So he does that in the middle of this song, and the solo in the middle of the song is equally as combustible as the first one. And then he just blows you away at the end of the song too, with another couple of sets of just ridiculous licks. And that's just how you play. I mean, he can be tasteful on some of their ballads, or on some of their rockers, he can just launch you into the stratosphere. So that's why I picked this song. It probably should have been on the main list, but I wanted to get him in here, because just trust me, he'll be on the 80s list for sure.
And Tesla's another one of those bands too that have just kind of, what is their biggest hit? Probably Signs. The cover,
Love Song,
and Love Song.
Signs. Yeah.
So you're not getting a lot of this, kind of over the top rock.
Yeah.
If you're not really diving into their history, and I know they go back a little bit farther than like Mr. Big and even Extreme, but just a victim of that. Really, to me, I only know the radio hits, so this was a new song to me. Yeah,
if you bought their Love Song was on their second album. If you bought that album thinking it was going to be all love song, no. I mean, it's a rocking album besides that. So I think you're right. They're kind of a victim of what you heard on the radio. It's Signs and Love Song, and but they at their core they're just a rock and roll band, and they can tear it up. They still can. I mean, like I said, I saw them late last summer, and they just brought the house down. Like it was awesome. I saw them open for Def Leppard back in the 80s, and they sounded just as good last summer as they did back in the 80s. So anyway,
good on them.
Yep. Your turn.
All right, next song So I refer to myself as a Southern Fried Yankee. I've spent the first half of my life in rural Pennsylvania, and the second half of my life I've been here in the South, in Atlanta, and then here in Montgomery. So I've got a lot of both cultures. If I go back home now, though, people just laugh at me at my quote unquote accent.
Seriously?
Accent.
That's
Yeah.
funny.
I had a guy, we were home in just a few weeks ago, and we're at the car wash, and the guy walks up, "Hey, how you doing? Everything going well?" And, "Oh, you're from down south. Where are you from?" I'm just,
That's so funny because
wow.
I can tell you when I listen to you talk, I hear the North.
Well, see, I've got a mix. I've got this weird mix.
Yeah.
So
That's
anyway,
so funny.
one of my favorite Southern rock bands is the Black Crowes, and I've liked them from day one, and
Yeah.
I think this is day one for them. Hard to Handle. So the guitarist is Rich Robinson, who is the younger brother of lead singer Chris Robinson.
Yep.
He uses a ton of different guitars from album to album, it seems, but I believe the guitar for this solo is a Fender Telecaster. I've always loved the Black Crowes. My favorite is probably Remedy, which I think was the next album.
Yep.
And I remember that being, dubbing that one onto I don't know if it was onto a cassette or CD in the production room at the radio station I worked for. I would go in the production room and grab all the CDs in the FM room and make my own like mix CDs and tapes. But this song really is what introduced them to me, to the world, really. I didn't know for the longest time it was a cover, but the solo, it's not this huge epic solo, but it's, again, one of those that you can sing along to. He's got a very clean technique to it, but the reason I picked it is because of the end solo where he comes back in and he's playing off of Chris's vocals towards the end of the song. So I've always loved their sound. They've got some really great ballads, and like I said, Remedy, and then what is it, Angel?
Talks to Angels.
Man.
Yeah.
It's so good. She talks to angels.
Yeah.
Man, they just kind of hit that Southern rock vibe that I need every once in a while, But
Nice.
Very fun band. And what about you with your history with the Black Crowes?
I saw their very first video for Jealous Again when I was a sophomore in college, and went out that day and bought the CD and just fell in love with it. It's such a great CD. And the cool thing about Rich Robinson is he uses so many different tunings on his guitars. He didn't just tune his guitar straight like a regular guitar. Normally, sometimes he does, but he uses a lot of different tunings. And so that's, one thing I figured out was you can't learn his songs, make them sound the same because you're not tuned the same way he is. And he's learned how to play all those different tunings. And so that's hard to do. That takes a lot of concentration and talent. But he's got a great, like you said, like Southern rock, very almost Leonard Skinner feel to some of the things he plays.
Absolutely.
And I love that sound. He gets a great tone when he plays, and those first 2 or 3 albums were just he's just a great player.
Yeah, that sound. There's really a fine line between like what I would call Southern rock and blues.
Yeah,
and when they mesh together really well, that's when you kind of get Leonard Skinner and 38 Special and whatever.
Yeah, exactly. It'd probably be more 38 Special than Leonard Skinner is what I would say. But it's such a unique sound when you're hearing it, and being in the South, the last 20 some years, and listening to classic rock down here, you get just smashed over the head with all kinds of Southern rock. Yeah,
and when they do it well, it's good.
Yeah.
All right, next one for you.
So the next one I picked was from the band Warrant. This is a song called Uncle Tom's Cabin. So like we mentioned just a few minutes ago, this is another 80s carryover, holdover band.
Mm-hmm.
The guitarists in the band are Joey Allen and Eric Turner. However, if the stories that are going around that went around are to be believed, when they were recording the band's debut album, the producer didn't like the way that either one of them played, so he brought in other people to record basically all the guitar solos that you hear on the album.
Really?
Yeah. The band claims that it wasn't all the solos, and B, everyone was doing it at the time, which is patently false.
Right. Yeah.
Which, in hindsight, that makes a lot of sense, because when I saw them live, they were not playing what was on the album. Which I know a lot of bands do that, but now I realize it's because they weren't playing to begin with.
Right. Yeah.
So fast forward to the second album, Cherry Pie, which is what this song is on that album. And CC DeVille plays a solo on Cherry Pie. I don't know if you knew that or not.
Actually, I didn't know.
Yeah, CC DeVille plays a solo on Cherry Pie. And the lead singer, Janie Lane, his brother, Eric Oswald, not only plays the acoustic intro for this song, but he plays the guitar solo as well.
Oh, wow.
So, who knows who's playing what on that album, but
That's
I do know
crazy.
that Janie Lane's brother Eric plays not only the acoustic intro, which is an incredible sounding intro to begin with, but he also plays the solo for this song. So it's very frenetic. It's all over the place. It's nonstop, but it sounds really tough. I mean, it fits the song excellently.
Absolutely.
He's got three or four tasty licks in there during the verses and the outro as well. So, like I said, at this point, who knows who's playing what on those songs? But I do know, because I read an article when I was getting ready for this about him. He's actually the guy that plays the solo. And this song really gets the shaft because of Cherry Pie. That before
Right.
he wrote Cherry Pie, the album was going to be called Uncle Tom's Cabin, and this was going to be the lead single.
Mm-hmm.
And the record company heard the album and said that they didn't hear the first single on the album, and Janie Lane went and wrote Cherry Pie in 15 minutes, and that's what this album's known for. But I believe this is their best song with Janie Lane, bar none. I think they reached their pinnacle when they wrote this song. It gets the shaft because it was the third single behind Cherry Pie.
Yeah.
But
I do remember this song, particularly. I remember watching the music video when I went back, and I probably had not heard this since the 90s. It had been forever since I heard this song.
Oh, really?
But I had heard it before, and wow, yeah, the solo is excellent. Whoever's doing it,
Whoever's playing that, they're really good.
I honestly didn't know all that backstory about about Warrant, but that's it was a good pick, definitely a good pick.
Yeah.
All right. Well, speaking of CC DeVille,
there you go. Great lead in for you right there.
Yes. Yeah. You were all over these segues here. So next up is Something to Believe In by Poison. So, CC DeVille, he's another who uses a lot of different guitars from what I can tell. And just from what I remember in the music videos, just all over the place. But in this song, he uses this gigantic Gretsch 6120, which is nearly as big as him.
He's, I'm gonna say it's as tall as he is, at least.
It's when you think about this guitar, when I'm looking at it, you think of like rockabilly, you think of the Stray Cats, But let me just say off the top, I'm not the biggest Poison fan, but several of their hits I really love, especially on this album, this song and Unskinny Bop. And I would put this song above Every Rose Has Its Thorn. I think it's the best.
Wow.
I know, again, that one just over the top in popularity, but I don't know what it is. This is a great solo. Another one you can sing along with. True. I love the big trail off at the end of the solo, and then you go back into that piano part, and he comes back in a more subtle way towards the end of the song, but it's so good. It just matches the song really well,
Right.
and great backing vocals too on this song
At the
as
end
a
of the song,
sidebar.
yeah.
Yeah.
You take the high road, I'll take the low road.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
really like that a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is my favorite Poison song by far.
Interesting.
And CC, I don't know. I've seen some things where he's gotten some crap over the years about being the worst soloist, and even in some guitar magazines and things like that. But I don't know if all that's warranted or not.
When CC DeVille is sober, he is an incredible guitar player. The problem is through most of the 80s and the first part of the 90s, that dude was never sober.
Yeah, right. Well, he got kicked out of Poison, right?
Because of that, yeah.
Memory serves me right.
Because he couldn't get his substance abuse under control. But when he is sober, he is more than a decent guitar player. He's quite talented. It just didn't ever get to come out because he was just so altered most of the time. But
and Poison is really probably your number one example of a band or genre, maybe even of music, that just got trampled by the Seattle sound and grunge. Like after people got hooked on grunge, there was no going back to Poison. Even a lot of these 80s carryovers. It's probably why some of these I didn't even bother going back and exploring at the time. But I just feel like Poison just got the boot to the face from Kurt Cobain and all them people coming out of Seattle, and they just could not recover in popularity.
The band that we just talked about, Warrant. I remember Janie Lane saying, when they were putting out the album after Cherry Pie, he went to the record company, and when he got off the elevator, there was a big banner hanging in the hallway outside the elevator for Nirvana. And he said, I remember thinking to myself, it's over.
This is it.
Yeah, this is it. It's over. And he was right. I mean, it just...
Absolutely.
Those kind of bands just could not recover from that. Or compete.
Right, yeah. But, I mean, the early 90s, like 90, 91, I think this was around when this song came out. The Open Up and Say Ah, I think was 87 or 88, somewhere in there. So they're right towards the end of the 80s, early 90s. They were one of the top bands out there. Filling up stadiums everywhere.
For sure, yeah.
So, all right, well, on to the next casualty of alternative music.
So, my next pick is from the band Great White. Again, another 80s carryover. Great White and a song called Call It Rock and Roll. So the guitarist for this band, Mark Kendall, has always been one of my favorite guitar players from the 80s, especially on the Great White album, Once Bitten. He's really blues oriented. He has a lot of great blues licks that he throws into songs. He can write. He's kind of like Frank Hannon. He can write some pretty tasty riffs to write songs to. And for this song, Call It Rock and Roll, there are actually two versions of it. The original is on their 91 album called Hooked. Mm-hmm. Then there's a slightly different version on their 1998 Greatest Hits album. And that one's probably my favorite. It's a little more raw, and it sounds a little more less produced and more live. Mm-hmm. But Kendall still takes the same number of guitar breaks in both songs. I think there's 4 or 5 solos in this song that he takes, and they're in both versions. It's just this song is just your basic 12-bar blues progression, which for a guitar player, that is the easiest and the most fun to play over because you know where every chord's going to be next, and it's just easy to play and riff over it. So, and Mark definitely knows how to do that. That's his thing, and he sits in that arena very nicely and can play that kind of stuff. And so, this has got, like I said, 4 solos that I can remember, and he just takes off every time it's his turn to play. He just fills it from beginning to end, and it's just smooth blues riffs and soloing. I love that sound. It's not quite Southern rock, but it's very bluesy rock and roll, and I love that sound. What about you? Have you heard any Great White?
I mean, obviously everybody knows Once Bitten, Twice
Once Bitten,
Shy.
Twice Shy, yeah.
And the music video. um, but yeah, I mean, they have a unique sound. Even they're almost in between genres. I will agree with that. And yeah, so we've covered a lot of different just styles and everything. The only thing I think we haven't covered is why didn't one of us pick Jackal's Lumberjack, and have like a chainsaw in there?
I don't even recognize that band. I don't even.
But anyway, Great White, yeah, they're a very fun band, and yeah, I went back and I was watching a live version of this song on YouTube, and I was like, wow, yeah, that one very, very well deserved.
Yeah.
All right, well, I've got one more, and you've got one more.
Yep.
And this one I did, like I said, I was hunting around the end of the 90s since we were so top heavy on this list.
We kind of were.
I did find one that I thought was warranted for an honorable mention, and that comes from the band Fuel, and the song is called Sunburn. So Carl Bell is the guitarist and the main songwriter for Fuel. Wrote this song, wrote the hits Shimmer, Bittersweet, and Hemorrhage in My Hands, which was a huge hit in '99. Carl is all about the Gibsons, the Les Paul, the standard models.
Yep.
He also has some PRS guitars. But I was a huge fan of the band when they hit in '99, this debut album, the Sunburn album. One of my roommates in college, the one at the time, he loved them too. I remember one instance in particular when his girlfriend came into town and the three of us drove to a hockey game in Greenville, South Carolina from our college there in Northeast Georgia. And just this album was blaring the whole entire trip. And for some reason, I had just not remembered the song and the solo when we were, originally making the list. And most of the solos from the hits are great, but they're shorter from Fuel. And this one is one of the longer ones I remember. And I just love it. It's almost in two parts. He starts out kind of subtle, just more traditional picking, I would say. And then you get the that hey from Brett Scallions, the lead singer. And he just brings the power with some great bends in there. And the outro solo too, under the vocals, is really awesome. And this song really, I don't know if it's my favorite Fuel, but it's definitely like a 24/7 song for me. I could play it anytime, anywhere, and just put it on repeat. It's so good. Brett's vocals are so amazing, and I don't see how he's just destroyed his voice over the years because he's got that real scratchiness to it.
Yeah.
And I love it when he sings high, but then when he's down low, you hear that scratchiness, and just shines even more on like the slower paced songs like this one, more than just Hemorrhage, where he's just all up in your face with that song. But Fuel is just one of those bands that hit me real hard. The first two albums in particular, the first one that came out in '99, and I think the next one was either that next year or 2 years later. Just really good stuff. What about you? Are you any history with Fuel?
I do. I don't know which album it's on, but there's a song called "Knives" that's probably my favorite Fuel song. That and Bad Day. Is that what it's called? Bad Day.
Yes.
Bad Day again. Yeah. I've heard some of their stuff, but I haven't heard a whole lot of it. Probably my biggest connection to Fuel is when their vocalist Brett Scallion left the band.
Mm-hmm.
A friend of my sister's sent in a demo tape to the band.
Really?
To try out, and they flew him out to audition for the band. Yeah, and it came down, I think, if I remember the story right, it came down between him and Chris Daughtry of American Idol fame.
Right.
And Daughtry, and I think Daughtry, he ended up being their singer for a while, right?
For a while, yeah.
So, but it came down to them. So that's my biggest connection to them. I don't have a whole lot of history with Carl Bell. So
Yeah, he's the main songwriter, so I think there was some stuff going on there between excuse me, a lot of the members of the band where they felt like it was just more him and he wasn't including them, so they've broken up, added people over the years.
Gotcha.
They got back together, and then I think he finally split ways just kind of in recent years,
right
in the last couple of years. But
Right.
yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those bands. They're from Pennsylvania, so for what that's worth, I was like, oh
but
yeah, they're
but
cool.
it's them when you hear it. I mean,
But
you hear a song and you go, oh well, that's Fuel. I mean,
no, and that's part of it too. They have a distinct sound.
Yeah.
And his guitar work, some of the effects and stuff, particularly on this song at the beginning, on the rhythm guitar, is really cool. And they do have their own unique sound. And with Brett's voice, it's just wow. It can be real in your face and powerful. Yeah. And then this one is just kind of this one is just more melodic, and oh man, it's just such a great song.
Yeah.
All right. Well, what's your final pick?
Our final pick. This is from a guy named Michael Lee Firkins, and it's a song titled "Sanford and Son." So this song is on Michael Lee Firkins.
What is this song, man? I was like, this is the actual theme, and by God, he busts into it.
I know, that's my favorite part.
Oh my gosh.
This is on his 1996 album, Cactus Cruise. He originally started on Shrapnel Records as well. We've mentioned it, it several times. And that's how I discovered him. I bought his very first tape. Didn't even know who he was. I just saw it in the magazine and bought it, and that's how I discovered this guy. He incorporates a lot of bluegrass and country licks into his playing, even though he's classified as rock. So he has a very distinctive sound.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess what you would call his signature move is he can make his playing sound like he's playing a lap steel or a slide guitar, just by using his tremolo bar. And I can't even describe how he does it. And I've seen him live. I saw him live in the early '90s, and I watched him do it, and I couldn't figure out what he was doing. But he's played Yamaha Pacifica guitar since he started, but he really hasn't done much in the past 10 years. He's been kind of silent. He hasn't even played live anywhere. Mm-hmm. But like I said, he had 3 albums in the early '90s. I could have picked from. I mean, there's just about every song on every one of those albums is just amazing. But this is one of my favorites simply because it transforms into the Sanford and Son theme. I don't know why I like it. I just do. He just starts playing that. Wah, 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 wah. I just love that.
Yeah. Well, and it starts out like an original song.
Just an instrumental. Okay. Yeah.
I thought this was going to be the theme, and listening to it, I was like, this is pretty cool, for an instrumental. And he busts into it, and that show, I have very fond memories of staying up
I do too.
late night with my gram at her house when I'd have sleepovers. Yeah. And we would watch all the old sitcoms.
Yes.
Sanford and Son was a favorite of ours. And hearing that song.
That's probably why because my uncle and my grandpa used to watch Sanford and Son all the time. So that's just it just triggers a great memory in my mind. And so I've always loved this song. And I know you're not into the instrumental songs. We talked about that in the list.
Yeah.
But if you're listening, or even if you're interested, this album, Cactus Cruise, and his self-titled debut, they're just phenomenal. He's just like I said, he's got a very unique sound because he plays a lot of bluegrass and country licks while he's playing rock, to a rock track. So they're just phenomenal albums.
Yeah, I would say this is more of a novelty kind of thing than anything.
This one is, yeah.
This is why I didn't mind the sitting through the instrumental to hear that.
My big connection to Michael Lee Firkins is this, and I'll tell the story really quick, and we'll be done. Several years ago, 5 or 6 years ago, I was trying to put a band together here in town, and I actually put an ad on Craigslist looking for other musicians or whatever, and I met this guy named Steve, and we got together one night for drinks just to talk about music and what each of us were trying to do or wanted to do. And he was a guitar player and a singer, and we were talking, and he goes, "So, who are some of your favorite guitar players?" And I said, and I named some people off. I said, really, one guy that I like that I can't play like him, but I just am enamored with his playing is Michael Lee Firkins. And he goes, "Michael Lee Firkins?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, hang on a minute. And he pulled his phone out, and he pulls up his contacts, and he's got a Mike Firkins in his contacts. And he goes, "Hang on a minute." And he pushes the call button. He calls this guy named Mike Firkins. And on the other end of the phone, this guy goes, "Hey, what's up?" And he goes, "Hey, Mike, I got a guy here that thinks he knows who you are." And Michael Lee Firkins goes, "Oh yeah?" And literally he grew up with Michael Lee Firkins.
Oh, that's crazy.
And
name dropping him was just like the greatest thing in the world.
Yeah. And so that's just, he just called up Michael Lee Firkins, and we had on speakerphone, we had a conversation for like 15 minutes, and that was it. But
cool.
Beyond that, yeah, he's a great guitar player. And if you want something to listen to, like in the background, that you don't have to listen to lyrics, but you can, hear music. His first 2 albums are phenomenal.
Awesome. All right. Well, you got some connections over there.
Not really.
It's all about who you know.
All about it.
All right. Well, that's our 90s, our favorite 90s guitar solos honorable mentions list. We're going to put a cap on the 90s for now, and we are traveling back in time, going to go back to the 80s and somehow pick our favorite guitar solos. Just to be honest with the listeners, I've got some songs dwindled down. Most are in my head. I have not put thought to paper yet on some of these, but yeah, it's going to be interesting. I don't know how we're going to do this. If we might have to put like a list of, 20 songs together and then see what's kind of similar on both of our lists before we
I've got a playlist of about 20 songs right now that are candidates. So we probably need to start.
Yeah.
We need to start comparing notes and lists.
Yeah, before too long here. But I think I was telling the other day, as long as we get started by early August, then we'll hit our stride. First week of November we'll be done and can take the holidays off, which was kind of our goal last year.
Which is probably going to take us between now and August to make a list.
We'll see how it goes. But we got a couple of months yet, and maybe we want to do some other album reviews or something in the meantime. We can always throw up a couple more kind of bonus episodes, in the meantime. But we'll see how it goes. But we'll definitely be back, at latest,
soonish.
August, the second week of August.
That's our drop dead date.
All right. Well, we appreciate everybody listening. Of course, you can find us over there on Twitter at Greatest Lists. Our whole archive of podcasts is on greatestlistspodcast.com. And you can go to the little subscribe page on that website and connect with your favorite podcast app if you haven't already. But man, this is fun. This is great to hash out some more songs and talk to you for a little bit longer than 15 minutes or 20 minutes.
I'm sure people are like, God, this episode's forever.
This is going on forever, man. What are these guys doing? But really enjoyed the first half of the season and cannot wait for the second half, man. It's going to be a fun ride.
Too. Yeah.
All right, everybody take care out there, and we'll see you soon.
You've been listening to The Greatest Lists.